All right, Scott, so this is good news here, buddy. Here's this last swing with that driver. Watch this, Scott. Here's this last swing with that driver. That head stayed up quite well, much better. That stance, that's not too wide for a driver, but for that iron, it was definitely wider than I'd want you to be starting out tonight. That was that iron. You see that iron was about the same width as the driver, just about. You know, starting out tonight. Right there to right there. And then starting out tonight, you see how that head was going down and forward. More so than normal, and I'm going to say part of that is because your stance was wider than it really should be. And then starting out tonight, you can see how you're definitely kind of back on your heels. And that line coming up from the balls of your feet, you know, was on your ear more so than on your, right there, on the back of your neck, the nape of your neck, where we'd want it. So that's the difference there, buddy. Much better looking there. More on the balls of your feet. And then that's kind of where it was starting out tonight, but then when you're trying to keep that head up better, it got more like that. So I like that a lot there, man. And then from this face-on angle, it got better and better. So that was better than what you started with, and this was the best one, I think, right here. Yeah, that was the best one on the video, I think, especially looking back compared to the first one tonight from face-on. See the difference there, buddy? Much better. Okay, and then what I was starting to say there is that relative to hitting the greens, remember now, if you leave a chip, it's just as good as leaving a putt. That's why I ask you, are you leaving chips or pitches? So if you miss a green and you leave a chip, I want you to feel like that's still going to be a little 8-iron up and down anyway. So that's not bad. But if you're leaving a lot of pitches, then that's bad news. Because again, golf success for pitches on the green, and that's going to lead to more bogeys than if you're missing greens leaving chips, which is going to lead to par almost every time. And then part of that, to not leave pitches, is to make sure you're picking good targets. Okay? Remember the 3 things mantra: have constructive thinking for 5 hours, control your full swing misses well, and hit all your short game shots the perfect distance, like I kept putting on all the emails this summer. So, and part of controlling your full swing misses well is to pick good targets. You know what I mean? So that if you don't hit your little draw that you plan on, if it draws a little too much, you would still miss it on the fat side of the green, or miss it where there's a lot of green to work with, where you could chip it, rather than missing it on a part of the green where now you have very little green to work with and you have to pitch it. Okay? Now, do you feel like you're getting better and better at that?
With my chips?
No, with your target selection, picking your targets. Okay. Yeah, I would think if you're shooting these, 36s to 41s pretty consistently, if you're only hitting 2 or 3 or 4 greens per 9 and still shooting 36 to 41, that means you're leaving some fairly simple chips or pitches. Okay? Now, there are tour players that only hit 9 greens per round, per 18. So if you're hitting 4 per 9, that's almost tour level. But they're tour players only hitting 9 greens around, but they're averaging 70, 71. So that tells you they're not leaving it at some horrendous spots when they miss it, and they're making a lot of their birdies when they hit the 9 greens. So don't get overly obsessed about how many greens per 9 you're hitting. There's kind of a lot more that goes into it. You see what I mean? So just be cognizant of that. Try to miss it well, and yeah, you can hit 2 or 3, and you know this, you can hit 2 or 3 or 4 greens and still shoot even par. It's not that crazy hard. You make 1 or 2 birdies out of the 2 or 3 or 4 greens you hit, and you get up and down 3 times, so you end up making 2 bogeys. You shoot 38. So hitting 2 or 3 or 4 greens isn't as bad as it sounds at first blush. You kind of see what I mean? So if you're hitting 7 per 18, that's almost tour level. Now the best tour players hit 12 or 13. The guy who leads that category every year is hitting 12 or 13. But the guys at the bottom are down about 8.5 or 9. So you see that's only 3 or 4 greens difference. So, and again, like anything, I don't like to dwell on the negative. And if you just keep saying, oh, I'm not hitting greens when you're standing over balls, and I'm not hitting greens, it's going to tend to miss it anyway. All right? So just be positive and say, okay, yeah, this is where